everybody, and welcome to this video. In this video we're going to cover technology and remote working. It's not going to look at remote working from a remote worker's point of view. There's lots of videos and articles about that, about scheduling your time and how to set up your home office ergonomically, etc. We're also going to be looking at how business needs to adapt and change to be able to accommodate remote working. Now, I'm sure some people in their business continuity plans and disaster recovery plans had some form of remote working in mind, or it might have been an off-site location, etc. But of course, this COVID-19 virus that we're experiencing now is something that people never really completely planned for, couldn't have planned for, even though it probably wasn't a complete black swan event. It was a bit grey swan because people knew about the possibility of a worldwide pandemic. Problem with things like worldwide pandemics is a lot of the disaster recovery plans and business continuity plans are premised on it being short term, or that it's just your business that's undergoing the business continuity issue or a certain location. It's not the whole nation or the whole world. Very often in business continuity plans and disaster recovery plans, you assume there's spare capacity somewhere in the system because not everybody's going to be using it, and now suddenly we're faced with all kinds of capacity constraints around networking, etc. And obviously the supply chains are all disrupted worldwide. So, it's a difficult situation to be in, and we need to kind of think about what we're going to, how we can best prepare ourselves to accommodate remote working, because it's probably going to grow as a trend. It already was a trend in terms of remote working, and now it's going to become more prominent, right, in terms of how businesses are structured. Of course, in my opinion, and I won't really discuss this a lot here, but it's not only going to change the way people work, it's also going to change fundamentally the labor relationship. I don't think many people will be on fixed monthly salaries. It's going to accelerate the trend towards the gig economy, where people are paid per output, because just remote working, it has worked in the past, is mainly with freelancers, in terms of tasks that are being broken down into projects. So obviously technology, project development, etc., quite a popular place where you see remote working. That's where most of the lessons have come from. But to restructure your entire workflow process to accommodate creditors and debtors and all of that remotely, well, we have to see how that all pans out. But I do think it's going to have an impact on how people are remunerated in future. We already see that companies will install things like monitoring software to monitor keystrokes and have the video camera capture pictures of people to make sure they're at their desk. I remember many years ago I was in Argentina, and they recently had a currency devaluation because they tried to peg it against the dollar. And so a lot of them were doing remote work for these are freelancers, for Americans, over Argentinians. And what do they have to install? They have to install a keylogger. So when you bill a person for 3 hours worth of work, they can see what you're actually typing in on your computer. Were you sitting and watching YouTube videos, or were you actually doing work? And I think this is one of the things which technology is never a one-way street. I think a lot of people who are traditional office workers working from home, there's also a lot of benefits, no traffic, all of that kind of stuff. But it's not going to be a one-way street in terms of the labor relations. It's not only going to be how you work or how you go to work, get your work done is going to change. It's also going to probably be how you're remunerated, how you're managed, etc. as well. And I think they're still playing themselves out. Probably find like project manager will be more in demand because it's essentially going to become more like a project management type exercise, in my opinion. But anyway, I digress. Really to talk about technology and remote work. As I was thinking about this, I thought we could break it into two parts, right? So one is looking at the current situation where most companies are at, because the remote working and the solutions to it are dictated by your current network infrastructure, your current IT infrastructure. I think most companies are still very much traditional perimeter-based network, where you've got an internal network and a network perimeter and external network, and everybody doing work is on the inside. You have a few people on the outside connecting in, but you're really relying on your network perimeter to do much of the security for you, right, and checking it to all the friendlies are inside and all the baddies on the outside. So we'll go from that point of view and discuss the issues around client setup, because of the hardware, and as well as on the server side and your infrastructure side. And then we'll start looking at the newer ways of setting up infrastructure, right? If you look at distributed kind of working, cloud-based resources and services, etc. And this, once again, is a trend that's kind of been bubbling up there. The company has been slowly adapting to it, but I mean it's going to be accelerated now with COVID-19. Okay, so just looking at the sort of current setup, most people have a kind of some router or perimeter device, and probably have a VPN. Right? So if you don't have a VPN, it's be the easiest way to get people to continue to work remotely. Because essentially a VPN is like extending the internal LAN to people on the outside. And that architecture does work the simplest to implement. So what you need, setting it up on your server side depends what technology you're using, Windows or Linux box, where you can just set up a VPN gateway and connect out. And obviously it depends on your capacity, how many people are going to be connected, etc. The key thing here is on the client side, because a lot of people in South Africa, so we're discovering, don't really have great connectivity at home, even though there's fiber all over the place. So there's this mad rush for 3G and LTE dongles. The LTE people connect remotely. In fact, we had experienced a mad rush on LTE antennas and 3G antennas, because once again now, a lot of people have weak connectivity if they're using 3G or LTE, and so they need to get antennas to boost the signal. And even if you've got good signal during good times, everybody's working from home, so the cell phone signal breathes, as I say, contracts and expands depending on how many people are on at a time. Plus, we've got these bandwidth or spectrum constraints in South Africa. So, if people are going to set up at home, they should consider checking out, do they have a decent connection, what device are they connecting with, and whether they should get any antennas. So, if we have a look quickly at some of these devices, I'm going to quickly show you some of them that you can get. So, there's a whole bunch of these different antennas. Typically, the pointing antennas are quite useful. And the 3G, the old sort of 3G USB dongles, which kind of fell out of fashion, they're quite hard to find now. There are a couple still around, some from ZTE, etc. Also, people might connect wirelessly to an access point that's got fiber, so there's a whole bunch of different solutions for that. In addition, if you're going to look for devices that they can connect with, well, besides the USB dongles, you can also get these kind of Wi-Fi devices which multiple people can connect to. Or you can just get a normal 3G router. Obviously, it's a question of cost and expense, and companies are trying to keep it down. It does appear that a lot of companies are going to provide data as well to customers. What happens or to your staff? What if your staff already has connections, etc. So there's a lot of issues to consider just around the hardware side of things on the client. So what is kind of scary about this a little bit is that it's pretty much a bring your own device phenomenon, except it's now widespread, right? And typically how do most companies handle bring your own devices? They have a special network for these devices coming onto their network, and only allow access to certain applications and certain ports over this Wi-Fi network that anybody can connect to. And this kind of hints at where we'll probably end up going in terms of networking in the future, where there will be no network perimeter. And if you look at essentially how freelance workers work, it's pretty much similar, right? You don't have them logging into a VPN onto your network. Obviously, most companies will still consider doing that today because all of the applications weren't built for the cloud and they're sitting internal to the network. Right? One thing obviously you want to consider from sort of server side or from your business side, right, rather than the remote side, is security, because cybersecurity is obviously very important, and you have all the same issues now you have to bring your own devices. But it's a little bit worse because these guys, they're remote, but they're actually on your internal network. Don't do things like set up remote desktop protocol or TeamViewer or something and use that as a way for people to access. Remote desktop protocol is full of vulnerabilities, and the only way to really secure it is put it behind a VPN. So you definitely need a VPN access to your network rather than some other kind of access to your network. What you also want to look at is, in terms of security, is do you need to encrypt drives, etc. now that are remote? Obviously, there's more chance of them getting lost, right? Previously, maybe people would have a desktop or workstation. Office is not going to much harder to get stolen. Now that all the work is remote, although it doesn't really completely address the security issue. If you're using a VPN, obviously your traffic will automatically be encrypted, and this is kind of essential. Because who knows, a remote worker might decide to go, when things are sort of back to normal, might go to McDonald's and connect to their free Wi-Fi to connect to your network and work. So if that network traffic gets sniffed, at least it's over an encrypted connection, so they can't actually, they can sniff the information, but they won't be able to decrypt it. Another thing to consider is don't use username and password-based authentication to these VPNs. It's too easy to brute force. You're definitely going to need to look at things like security certificates. You've got a client and server certificate to validate both the client and the server, and obviously you want a password on the client certificate as well to make sure if the laptop is stolen, somebody can't just simply power it up and connect to your network. require a lot of infrastructure because you're going to need like a certificate authority to issue certificates, revoke certificates, and do all that certificate management stuff around managing certificates and issuing them. Yeah, there's also the issue, of course, of configuring all of these remote machines. Depending on what technology you use, there's different ways of doing that and providing the configurations to remote staff. Obviously, providing remote IT support can be quite difficult as well. So probably that's the only thing you can do in the short term. In the long term, you probably need to look at completely changing your network infrastructure. Once again, this is a trend that has been happening with cloud computing. You've got your services sitting in the cloud. You don't really have a network perimeter to protect all of your services that you're offering. I mean, you might have some kind of virtual private cloud thing that's private, but in terms of your services, people won't log into the network, aren't on the same network as the services, and they have to connect to each service individually and authenticate to them. And so this requires a complete re-architecture of your applications, your security around your applications and your network infrastructure and how you approach it, right? So not one big firewall or router protecting the entire network, but basically every single service has to be hardened, and access to it has to be controlled and audited and logged and monitored. In terms of desktop working rather than just applications, well, you do have things like virtual desktops now. Amazon's got this remote virtual desktop, which is probably a real quick way, right? If you're a small company and you want to kind of cut costs and just get rid of all the configuration and management issues, it's just to sign everybody up for Amazon remote desktop and then get them to connect from there. Then a lot of your problems are solved. Just quickly, this is like the list of the vulnerabilities for Windows remote desktop, right? So, there was recently the Blue Keep, I think it was called, the vulnerability for the remote desktop protocol, which allowed people to log in without having to even use a username and password. So there's a lot of vulnerabilities. It's best always to kind of put remote desktop behind a VPN. So yeah, we have Amazon's virtual desktop and apps all running in the cloud infrastructure on AWS. What's great about this is hardening workstations, updating them, patching them, configuring them can all be done centrally. Identity and access management can be done centrally. You can control the access to your services in the cloud. So it really is a kind of great solution to quickly enable remote working. And again, as you know, with cloud, it's going to turn it from a capital cost to a kind of utility or an operational cost. So quite quick to get it. Obviously, if you're a small company, if you're a big corporate, you have to move all your apps to the cloud, all this kind of stuff, right? So a bit more of a bigger project. There's also potentially, using Google Chrome Enterprise and using the G Suite. I mean, a lot of people are already using a lot of Google services, the mail, the worksheets, etc., right? The office productivity suites. So with this, basically, people will get a Chrome laptop or some kind of Chrome device, and that will connect to the cloud, everything's stored in the cloud, but at least it's cheap to kind of provide these devices to your staff, and also it's centrally managed and secure, right? So you can do updates, you can do IAM, identity and access management, through Google G Suite, etc. So this might be also something to consider. Once again, you have to move all your applications to the cloud to really be able to take advantage of these solutions. But I think this is basically the future trend, where a lot of things are moving online or into the cloud. Personally, I'm a bit suspicious of the cloud, but obviously you can have cloud functionality without going onto the public cloud. And at later episodes, we'll look at different tools and utilities you might use to do that, or you could use these and deploy them in the cloud anyway. Obviously, it's very hard to argue against the cost-benefit analysis of the cloud, but there are other risks, and this is something for a later video. Anyway, if you have any other comments or ideas or solutions that you think, or something that I missed, please put it in the comments. Thank you.